Namaste, it's me Dhirendra Kumar Yadav. I am ALT learner as well as a teacher. Let's discuss today second chapter of literature section of class 12. The chapter name is given A Respectable Woman. Before going to discuss this chapter, at first we should not forget to subscribe our channel Learn with Ease. So I would like to request all viewers, please subscribe our channel and then after we start to discuss. Okay, now I'm going to discuss our well-known story, A Respectable Woman. Please, all of you, just listen carefully. साँच्चीकै A Respectable Woman एउटा अमेरिकन फिमेल राइटर क्याट चपिनबाट लेखिएको र सानो कथा हो, जुन कथा हामी पढ्दाखेरि तीनवटा क्यारेक्टर्सहरू पाएका छौँ। त्यसमध्ये मिस्टर गार्सन बरोडा र मिसेज बरोडा दुईटै वाइफ र हस्बेन्ड हुनुहुन्छ। अनि मिस्टर गार्सन बरोडा एजुकेटेड मान्छे हो, तर जब नपाएर आफ्नो खेतमै काम गरिरहेका हुन्छन्। यो मान्छे बडा फ्र्याङ्क हुन्छन् अनि गुड इन वर्ड्स, आफ्नो वचनको प्रतिबद्धता भएको मान्छे हो। मिसेज बरोडा एज अ वाइफ रिस्पेक्टेबल वुमन हो, तर मिसेज बरोडा आफ्नो हस्बेन्डलाई सुरुमा धेरै नै किसानी रूपमा खेतीमा पनि सहयोग गराउँछन्, आफ्नो हस्बेन्ड प्रति वफादार हुन्छन्। तर ग्याक्सनले जब मिसेज बरोडालाई भन्छन् यो विन्टर भ्याकेसनमा उसको घरमा उसको साथी, कलेज साथी गभर्नियल मिस्टर गभर्नियल आइरहेछन्, त्यो कुरा सुनेर बरोडाको मनमा अलि खिन्नता आउँछन्। अनि उसले अलरेडी प्लान बनाएको हुन्छन् यो विन्टर भ्याकेसनको बिजी लाइफ, बिजी सेड्युलमा, त्यो बिजी सेड्युलमा आफू अब वर्क सिद्ध्याइसकेपछि मजाले एज अ वाइफ र हस्बेन्ड एउटा प्लेजरको लाइफ बिताउने, एउटा प्लेजेन्ट अनि ह्याप्पिनेस अनि द जुली मोमेन्टमा के प्राइभेसी सिक्रेसी मेन्टेन गर्ने, त्यो फिलिङ अलरेडी सी ह्याड मेड अ प्लान। तर वर्ड सुन्ने बित्तिकै, गभर्नियल आइरहेको कुरा सुन्ने बित्तिकै अलि उसको मनमा खिन्नता हुन्छन्। तर खिन्नता भएर पनि उसलाई लाग्छ ओ यस ग्याक्सनले बरोडालाई गभर्नियलको बारेमा कति पटक भनिसकेका हुन्छन्। अनि बरोडाले माइन्डमा एउटा फिगर बनाउँछन्, उसले कहिले पनि यसलाई हेरेको हुँदैन तर फिगर बनाउँछन्, माइन्डमा एउटा इमेजिनेसन गर्छन्, हो गभर्नियल भनेको माइट बी एउटा टल स्लिम सिनिकल मान्छे होला, ह्याभिङ वेयरिङ स्पेक्टेकल्स होला, त्यो अलवेज ह्यान्ड्स त्यो हात पकेटमा राखेकोमा एउटा बोरिङ मान्छे जस्तो होला। त्यो एउटा फिगर त्यसको माइन्डमा हुन्छन् कि मिस्टर गभर्नियल यस्तो होला। तर जब गभर्नियल यसको घरमा आउँछन्, फर्स्ट साइट उसले जब गभर्नियललाई हेर्छन्, उसको जुन इमेजिनेसन हुन्छ त्यो इमेजिनेसनभन्दा फरक पाउँछिन्। अनि त्यो मिसेज बरोडा फरक पाउँछिन् कसलाई? मिस्टर गभर्नियललाई। अनि त्यो फर्स्ट साइट सी एट्र्याक्ट्स, सी लाइक्स टु हिम, यसलाई लाइक गर्न सुरु गर्छन्। हो यो स्लिम हो तर सिनिकल होइन, मान्छे उसको जुन सोच थियो बोरिङ, त्यो बोरिङ जस्तो होइन, मान्छे एकदम स्मार्ट हो, पेसाले जर्नलिस्ट हो, पत्रकार हो। तर गभर्नियल पनि ऊ आफू एउटा पत्रकार भएको नाताले, एजुकेटेड मान्छे भएको नाताले ऊ एउटा गेस्टको रूपमा आफ्नो साथीको घरमा आएको हुन्छन् र उसको पनि मोरालिटी हुन्छन् र आफ्नो रिस्पेक्टेड टु वुमेन, वुमेनलाई रिस्पेक्ट गर्ने उसको पनि एउटा बानी, एउटा राम्रो बानी हुन्छन्। समय बित्दै जान्छन्, मिसेज बरोडा बिस्तारै बिस्तारै यही जुन एट्र्याक्सन हुन्छन् त्यो कन्फ्लिक्ट उसको माइन्डमा आइरहेछन् र ऊ आफ्नो इनर भोइस, इनर कन्फ्लिक्ट एक्सप्रेस गर्न सकिरहेको हुँदैन। न त त्यो कुरा आफ्नो हस्बेन्डलाई भनिरहेको हुँदैन, न त आफ्नो हस्बेन्डको साथीलाई भनिरहेको हुन्छन् यो फिलिङ किन हो। तर यो आफूलाई पनि लाग्छ कि मलाई यो एट्र्याक्सन किन आइरहेछन्, यसलाई पनि आफै पनि बुझिरहेछन्। सी डजन्ट नो वाइ सी स्टार्ट्स टु एट्र्याक्ट अर ल्युर गभर्नियल। अब त्यो कुरा हेरेर मिसेस बरोडाको भित्र जुन इनर भोइस दबिँदै जान्छन्, एक्सप्रेस गर्न सक्दैन, त्यो साइकोलोजिकली डिप्रेस्ड हुँदै जान्छन्। त्यो साइकोलोजी डिप्रेस भएको कारण अब ऊ कहिलेकाहीँ बडोदा गभर्नरलाई पनि कुराकानी गर्न खोज्छन्, तर गभर्नरले कुनै रिस्पोन्स दिएको हुँदैन। प्लान्टेसनको बेलामा पनि कहिलेकाहीँ बस्ने बेलामा पनि अब मिसेस बडोदाले केही कम्पनी मेन्टेन गर्न खोजा हुन्छन्, तर गभर्नर बडा शान्त स्वभावको हुन्छन्, कुनै रिस्पोन्स दिएको हुँदैन। अनि त्यो सब सोचेर एकदम बडोदा मनमा चाहिँ यो ठाउँ छोडेर बरु आन्टीको घर जाऊ, जो आन्टी सहरमा बसिराख्नु भएको छन्, केही दिनसम्म त्यही बसौला, ताकि मेरो पनि जुन डिप्रेसन छन् डिप्रेसन हटेर जान्छन् अनि फेरि फर्कौला। अनि जुन आफ्नो सामान प्याक गरिसकेका हुन्छन् अनि त्यो राति एक्लै गार्डनमा एउटा बेन्चमा बसेर हुन्छन्, त्यो मिड नाइटको टाइम हुन्छन्। अनि मिड नाइट पुरा हावा मन्द मन्द हावा चलिरहेछन्, पुरै इन्भिजिबल अन्ध्यारो हुन्छन् र माथि तारा स्टार ट्विङ्कलिङ गरिरहेका हुन्छन्। त्यति बेला ग्याप्सन बडोदाले अनि गभर्नरलाई एउटा व्हाइट स्कार्फ, मिसेस बडोदाको व्हाइट स्कार्फ दिन्छन्, ल गएर दिइहाल्नुहोस्। अब गभर्नर त्यो व्हाइट स्कार्फ लिएर सिधा गार्डनमा पुग्छन्, गार्डनमा जहाँ एक्लै बसिरहेका हुन्छन्। अनि मिसेस बडोदालाई दिन्छन्। अब मिस्टर ग्याप्सन बडोदा अथवा तपाईँको हस्बेन्डले यो दिनुभएको छ, लिनु। अनि मिसेस बडोदा टेन्डरली लिन्छन्, त्यो व्हाइट स्कार्फ काँधमा यस्तो ऱ्यापिङ गर्छन्, कुनै बेला टाउकोमा ऱ्यापिङ गर्छन्, फेरि फोल्ड गरेर आफ्नो ल्यापमा काखमै राख्छन्। अनि मलाई त्यो केही नबोलिरहेका हुन्छन्, तर त्यो दिन जो कहिले पनि नबोल्ने गभर्नर आफ्नो भोइस स्टार्ट गर्छन्, केही बोल्न सुरु गर्छन् र यसको पनि मनमा आज कोही छैन। अनि भन्छन् एउटा कति सुन्दर वातावरण हो, हावा कतै मिठो चलिरहेछन्, पुरै इन्भिजिबल हो। अनि यो आफ्नो कलेज लाइफ जो गभर्नर र ग्याप्सन बडोदाले बिताएको त्यसको छलफल गर्छन्, कुराकानी गर्छन् र आफू एज अ वर्तमान लाइफ र फ्युचर लाइफ पनि के गर्ने हो त्यसको बारेमा पनि सोचिरहेका हुन्छन्। अनि त्यो भनिरहेका हुन्छन् कसलाई? मिसेस बडोदालाई, बडा टेन्डरली। त्यही टाइममा बडोदा मिसेस बडोदाको पनि मनमा एउटा त्यो जुन इनर कन्फ्लिक्ट हुन्छन् त्यो आज एक्सप्रेस गर्ने क्लाइमेक्स पोइन्टमा त्यो थट आउँछन्, विचार आउँछन्। अनि त्यसैले बडा नाजुक तरिकाले आफ्नो हात उठाउँछन् र उसको फेसमा त्यो लिपमा आफ्नो टेन्डर फिङ्गर लिएर यसले त्यो हात राख्छन्, औँला राख्छन्, गालामा राख्छन्। अनि त्यो उसको त्यो अट्याचमेन्ट, सेक्सुअली अट्याचमेन्टको भावना देखाउँछन्। कसरी मिसेस बडोदा अब गभर्नर प्रतिको जुन सेक्सुअल प्लेजरबाट हाई मोटिभेटेड भइसकेका हुन्छन्, त्यो मोटिभेसनको कारण, हाई मोटिभेटेड कारण त्यो एक्सप्रेस गर्न खोजिरहन्छन् आफ्नो त्यो फिलिङ औँलाको माध्यमबाट। अझै यति त्यो इम्पल्सिभ भइसकेका हुन्छन् कि आफ्नो फेस, आफ्नो टाउको अगाडि पारेर यसलाई कानमा केही भनेर गालामा किस गरौँ भने त्यो सोच लिएर अगाडि बढ्छन्। जब टाउको अगाडि गर्छन् इमिडिएटली उसको माइन्डमा जुन एउटा डिभोटेड वुमन, रिस्पेक्टेबल वुमनको फिलिङ हुन्छ, इमिडिएटली सी कन्ट्रोल्ड हर इगो, त्यो कन्ट्रोल्ड हर इम्पल्सेस। अनि त्यो इम्पल्सलाई कन्ट्रोल गर्छन् अनि त्यहाँबाट उठेर भाग्छन्। अनि उसले रियलाइज गर्छन् आई एम नट अनम्यारिड बट आई एम म्यारिड। बिङ अ म्यारिड वुमन आई हेभ टु फलो सम नर्म्स, भ्यालुज अफ द सोसल कल्चर, सोसल भ्यालुज अफ द म्यारिज। त्यो सोचेर त्यहाँबाट गइहाल्छन्। अब क्वेसन पनि यहाँ सोध्छन्, वाइ डिड सी लिभ इन द गार्डन, वाइ डिड सी लिभ द प्लेस। अनि त्यो लिभ किन गर्छन्? त्यो बिङ अ रेस्पेक्टेबल वुमन, सी हैज टु कन्ट्रोल हर इमोसन, डिजायर, फिलिङ्स एन्ड सी हैज टु फलो द नर्म्स, भ्यालुज अफ द सोसल ह्युमन बिङ एज अ म्यारिड गर्ल अर म्यारिड वुमन। अब यति गरिसकेपछि अब भोलिपल्ट बिहान हुन्छन्, बिहान आफ्नो लगेज प्याक गरेको हुन्छ, ब्याग लिन्छन् अनि त्यहाँबाट आफ्नो आन्टीको घर जानको लागि बिदा हुन्छन्। बिदा हुने बेलामा मजाले आफ्नो हस्बेन्डलाई भन्छन् जबसम्म तपाईँको साथी यहाँ बस्छन् तपाईँहरू बस्नुहोस्, म अब आन्टीको घरमा जान्छु, टिल ही विल लिभ हियर, सी कुड नट कम ब्याक। अनि यति भनेर आफू त्यहाँबाट गइहाल्छन्। अनि अझै थप दिन्छन् कि अब नेक्स्ट समर, अर्को गर्मी बिदामा आफ्नो साथीलाई भन्नु मिस्टर गभर्नरलाई आउनको लागि, त्यति बेला म एउटा रिस्पेक्टेबल वुमेनको सर उसलाई होस्टिङ गर्छु, वेलकम गर्छु र आई विल ओभरकम अल प्रब्लम्स। म आफ्नो सब प्रब्लमलाई ओभरकम मिन्स ट्याकल गर्छु, सजिलो तरिकाले ट्याकल गर्छु। यहाँ ओभरकम द अल प्रब्लम्स, त्यही अल प्रब्लम्स वर्ड्सले कन्फ्लिक्ट ल्याएको छन्। त्यो कन्फ्लिक्ट के हो? एउटा म्यारिड वुमेनको रूपमा उसलाई होस्टिङ गर्ने र अर्को यो हो कि आफ्नो जुन इनर फिलिङ छ के उसँग त्यो प्रब्लम्स उसँग फिजिकली रिलेसन राखेर ऊ आफू ट्याकल गर्न खोजेका छिन् कि त्यसैले यस च्याप्टरलाई अलिक कन्फ्लिक्टको रूपमा राखेको छन्, द्वन्द बनाइदिएको छन्। स्टोरी सुरुमा रेस्पेक्टेबल हो तर लास्टमा गएर हामीलाई एम्बिगियस बनाइदिएको छन्, मिस्टेरियस बनाइदिएको छन्। त्यही हो खास क्याट चोपिन राइटरको विशेषता। स्टोरी एउटातिर आउँछ, एन्डिङमा अर्को ट्विस्ट पारिदिन्छन् अनि त्यही हो खास कन्फ्लिक्ट पोइन्ट। अनि त्यसैले हामी केही की पोइन्ट्समा पनि लेखेको छौँ। यो क्याट चोपिन अमेरिकन फेमिनिस्ट स्टोरी राइटरले के लेख्नु भएको छ, खास गरेर मिसेस ब्रोडा र उसको इनर कन्फ्लिक्ट। अब यही सोच्छन्, what is the inner conflict of Mrs. Baroda? The inner conflict of Mrs. Baroda is she has started to love and attract to Mr. Governor at first sight. Though she is married, she starts to get the impulses in her feeling, in her desire, and want to get the love and the respect from the governor. That is the question. अर्को मेन जिस्ट पोइन्ट अफ दिस च्याप्टर यसको के हो, रियलिजम। रियलिस्टिक के हो कि यो अलरेडी म्यारिड वुमन हो, यो रियलिटी म्यारिड वुमन हो। म्यारिड वुमनको एउटा रेस्पेक्टेबल वुमनको जुन क्यारेक्टर हुनुपर्ने, गुण हुनुपर्ने त्यो फलो गरिरहेछन्। तर अन्तमा हामी के पायो, जस्ट ट्विस्टिङ पार्ट्स। अनि त्यो ट्विस्टिङ पार्ट्स हामी पायो एम्बिगियस स्टोरी। र यो एम्बिगियस पार्ट्सलाई ट्याकलिङ गरिरहेछन् दुईटा हाइलाइटेड वर्डबाट, डिभोसन र डिजायर। डिभोसन मिन्स सी इज अलरेडी डिभोटेड towards the society, being a woman, being a respectable woman, and she is already devoted to her one husband and she follows the norms, values of the marriage. But her impulse, her the inner desire is, that is rampant desire, and that rampant desire she could not control it, and she want to express with tendering the finger and keeping the lips, cheek, and she wanted to get the she wanted to do the physical relation with Mr. Governor. That is the conflicting moment. In fact, A Respectable Woman is one of the typical stories which has been written by well-known as well as a prominent novelist, American novelist and story writers, Cat Chopin. Cat Chopin is one well-known prominent figures of America and who herself belongs to the female writer, and she has written lots of stories, novel about the boosting the characteristics of the woman, and especially the woman characteristics. When we go through the chapter A Respectable Woman, we come across that there are three characters. Among them, Mr. Gerson Baroda, Mrs. Baroda, both are wife and husband. Mr. Gerson Baroda, though he is educated, but he could not get a job, so he has been working his whole life in his village side, as well as his wife, Mrs. Baroda, has been also supporting in his farming. And it was the time of the winter season or sugar plantation time, when Mrs. Baroda becomes just terrified, becomes worried about her life, and she had made a plan. After plantation, she wanted to get relax, enjoy pleasure with her husband. And meanwhile, Gerson Baroda informed that his college friend, Mr. Governor was coming to home. And when Mrs. Baroda listened that Mr. Governor, the friend of her husband, was coming to house, she feels irritation there because her plan was to get relax, pleasure with her husband and get enjoyment of life. And therefore, Mrs. Baroda feel little bit irritation in her life. And one day the governor came in his house and she started to host. And before governor came, there was one imagination. There was imagination of a governor in her mind, Mrs. Baroda's mind. Mrs. Baroda has listened lots of information about governor, but previously she had not noticed, she had not seen him with her own eyes. And so she thought governor might be tall, slim, lanky, cynical, always wearing spectacles, and putting the hands in his pocket. But such a negative feeling was in her mind about Governor. But when Governor came in our house, then after at first sight, when Mrs. Baroda noticed Mr. Governor, and he was drastically different. He was a slim but not cynical. And what was the perspectives in her mind about Governor was entirely different. And at first sight, she didn't know, but she started to like him, and her temptation, her attraction started to go towards Governor. And Governor also, it was the time of the sugar plantation, and Governor also wanted to help his friend Gaston Baroda, and Gaston Baroda and Governor always went to the sugar cane field, and where Governor becomes silence. Though he was a professional journalist living in a city, but he was a very keep quiet person. He was not talking with anyone, and he was sitting alone like a boring person. And he himself knew that he was a guest of his house, guest of his friend, and so he respected to his wife. But another hand, Mrs. Baroda, the wife of Gaston Baroda or Mrs. Baroda, started to like him, and she didn't know about the reason why did she like. Why did she like Mr. Governor? But slowly and gradually, she wanted to give the company to the Governor. Mrs. Baroda wanted to talk with Governor, but the Governor could not give any response. And her inner conflict started from here. That is the gist point of this chapter. And why did the inner conflict comes in her mind, and why did she wanted to attract to him with the Governor. So that is the main motto, or that is the main theme of this chapter. So this inner conflict uh, stimulates or just provokes in our mind, and so she was a little bit nervous about her own feeling, emotions, as well as the desires. And Mrs. Baroda thought that her inner voices, her inner conflict made her little bit blind, and she becomes upset, or she becomes irritated from the life of herself, because she could not express her inner desire to her wife, as well as her husband's friend. Mrs. Baroda became irritated with her life, with her own life, and she could not express her inner desire with her husband. And in this way, the time passed, and that one day she has already packed in her luggage in her bag, and she wanted to leave, departure her one room, and wanted to go to the city where her auntie was living. Her aunt was living, and she was living alone in the midnight time, and she was sitting on the bench in the garden, and it was the invisible. No one could see there. So while she was sitting there alone in the garden, and she left her one white scarf, and so that Gatson Baroda, her husband, gave that white scarf to Governor, and go and give that white scarf to Mrs. Baroda. And Mr. Governor came with a white scarf, and he handed white scarf to Mrs. Baroda, and Mrs. Baroda took it. And then after some time, she wrapped that white scarf around her neck, as well as sometimes on her head. And next to Mrs. Baroda, Governor also sat on the same bench. And it was the cool night. It was the invisible, and the air was blowing, star was twinkling, and Mr. Governor, who previously never speak single word, now he started to speak a very soft and lovely word. What a nice scene, what a nice pleasant environment, what how air is blowing, and just he appreciated the environment, and the environment as well as the just weather of that particular night. As well as Governor also explained the lifestyle of college, where Mr. Gatson and the Governor completed or the past so many days in the college. Again, Mr. Governor despair about his present time and present life as well as the future life too. And in this way, Mrs. Baroda also thinks it is a climax time or it is the particular fixed time that she could express her inner voice or inner feelings or inner desire. And she is so much attracted towards Mr. Governor that she just raise her tender fingers and keep that tender fingers on the lip of the governor. And that it shows the meaning that how much she fascinated, sexually fascinated with the governor. And that inner conflict reached at the climax point, and then after she raised her tender finger and kept her tender finger on the lip as well as the cheek of Governor. Not only that, she raised her voice, raised her head, and wanted to say something near the ear and getting the kiss on his cheek. And while she headed her head, immediately she controlled herself. She controlled herself and she thought that it was not good things because she was already married. She was a respectable woman. So immediately she controlled her emotion, passions, and left that place and immediately went to her own room. And next is early in the morning, she took her luggage back and told her husband she could not come back until his friend will stay here. She could not come back from the city, and she would start to live with the auntie in the city. And in the morning, while in the morning departing the place, Mrs. Baroda told to the Mr. Gatson Baroda or her husband, tell to your friend if he will come to another next summer vacation, she will serve him as a respectable woman, and she will just serve him. She will also overcome the whole problems. So here the question comes to overcome the whole problems. The overcome means here the two sense comes. Either she wants to show her respect to the governor as well as her inner feeling, her inner desire was to do the some sexually pleasure with the governor. So she will overcome her inner voice or inner feelings with the governor. So the here the conflict, and that is the conflict moments depicted by the cat chopping. So a respectable woman here we find in this chapter, being a respectable woman, we find that Mrs. Baroda wants to live in a standard life, but at the end of the story, we find that there is a conflict happening. Though her feeling is respectable, but in the ending point, we find that there is a realism versus the ambiguous ending. And the realistic is she is already married, but ambiguous ending is she wanted to live, attempt to the Mr. Governor and want to do the sexual pleasure with him. So that is the question. That is the racialism, or that is the again we find that realism versus ambiguous as well as the devotion versus to desire. So here she is already devoted towards the respectable woman. Being a respectable woman, she knows what is the culture, norms, values of the married woman, married lady, but her desire is uncontrollable. So she want to fulfill her desire with the governor. So that is the question. So here again writer depicts about the inner conflict. So this much story. I hope all of you watch it and like it, and please you will share it. Thank you.